But the next day, I wanted to buy a bike there. If I would have found a bike in Spiti, I would have bought it, purchased it to continue the ride.
Okay.
Because I wanted to ride the entire thing.
That would have made for a nice experience.
But I couldn't find a bike.
Yeah.
When you're flying a lot.
Yeah.
As for an airline, because an airline will try to squeeze every rupee, and a pilot is paid well in India. For the average Indian, you're paid well. So the airline will try to squeeze as much juice out of you as possible. Physically, it's very daunting to do anything else. Legally also, as per the Indian regulations, as per your contract with the company, you cannot be employed by anybody else, right? And I wanted to buy this bike for about 2.5 years. Finally, I could find one for myself, and it's called the BMW.
Hello and welcome, guys. Today we have a very dear friend now, you can say. Srujan's elder brother, that's Rohit Bharadwaj. He's a pilot, a biker, many more things. I'll just let him introduce himself.
Well, hi, Fujo. I am Rohit. By profession, I'm a pilot. By passion, I'm a biker. And by part-time, I'm a YouTuber. So this is the basic, very small introduction of myself. Yes. So this is what I do. Most of the time I fly. When I get time, I ride. Other times, I make friends.
Nice. So we met after I happened to meet Srujan. And we haven't ridden so far yet. But for the people
who are...
One
small ride actually. Dinner ride.
That
very small ride.
So ride ne usko crawl bol sakte hai.
Probably.
So a pretty adventurous one. We'll get into that later. But for the people who don't know you, most of the subscribers will not be knowing you. For them, just let us know what airlines you fly for and what bikes you ride.
So I work for an airline called Alliance Air, which was part of Airindia. Most of the people know Airindia, not Alliance Air. Last April is when Air India separated and it's gone to the Tatas. My division is still with the Government of India. So I fly an aircraft called ATR 72. And we are a basic regional carrier. We connect more newer airports in India, whichever is constructed new. We go there. We are the first people to fly there. Once the route builds up, as in the passenger loads, we kind of stop going there. We go to another airfield which is new, and all the private players eventually go there. So the major motto of the airline I work for is to connect newer airfields.
Okay.
And biking, that's a big crazy thing which I like. I've been into motorcycling, as in traveling on motorcycles for about 7-8 years now. So currently, me and my brother, we own 4 bikes. If Srujan has already spoken about it in another podcast video. But yeah, we have the newest vehicle is it's a Panigale, Ducati Panigale V2 we've got. And then we have a Multistrada, both Ducatis. We have a Honda Africa Twin and a Triumph Thruxton R.
And the 5th one coming soon. We won't disclose it in this video.
Really soon. I hope by the time this podcast is out, I hope
have
possibly the 5th one in our garage.
Yeah, so we'll go reverse now, bikes, and then we'll come on to the pilot career. ये चुल क्या है इतने बाइक्स का, and why do you have this key of having a bike that very few people or nobody else in town has it?
So one very big, so I have ridden single cylinders, or should I say, when it comes to biking, I've ridden bikes of all categories and also all engine configuration, more than categories, I would say.
Yeah.
And eventually what I boiled down to what is my liking is a twin cylinder motorcycle. So if you see, all the 4 motorcycles which we own are twin cylinders.
5th also.
5th also, yes, is also twin cylinder.
Yeah.
So there's something about twin cylinders, the low end torque, which appeals to me and my brother in that sense, in which none of the other configurations could. Yeah. And that started off, and I had a dream of having one bike in every category. So that is why if you see the 4 bikes we have, one is a super sport, one is a sports tourer, one is an adventure tourer, and one is a cafe racer. So all the 4 are 4 different categories. So the dream was to have one bike of each category. So trying to achieve that as and when it's possible.
अभी हो गया, अभी next क्या करना है?
Let's hope.
Naked. Okay. So done with this fun part. Now I want to ask you questions more so with the perspective of a young kid who wants to get into a flying career. He could be in his high school or getting into college or something like that, to give them a reality check of what life of a pilot is, a day in the life. So just take us through that.
See, it's not like a regular 9 to 5 job. Firstly, like, you don't have a fixed timing. So you might wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning one day, and a couple of days later, you might be landing at 3 o'clock in the night. So your body cycle is definitely going to go for a toss.
Yeah.
How do you be prepared for that? Physically, mentally is the only option, because your body will not be adjusted. So it's just a matter of time, and eventually you'll have to get used to getting rest, that good 7-8 hours of daily rest at whichever time possible. That is one very, very big factor. Although not many people speak about it, it's a very critical thing, because the human body over time, it starts depleting as you age. So that's a very big thing. You have to have enough adequate rest, and physical fitness for a pilot is also very important. There's an annual medical check which happens for your complete body once in a year.
Okay.
So you have to pass that. If you don't pass that, you can't fly.
Every year.
Every year.
Okay.
And once you cross 40, it's once in 6 months.
Okay.
So if you have any medical illnesses, it's difficult to fly, because safety is of very big
Even
importance in
eyesight
aviation.
and all that.
Eyesight, you can actually fly with glasses.
Okay.
There's a small regulation where you need to have an extra pair in your bag. You can fly with your glasses. There's no problem in commercial flying.
Okay.
Military flying, no. I'm not a military pilot, but I can't tell you much about that side of the field. But commercially, you can fly
Okay.
with glasses.
Now, like you said, after 40, the test will be once every 6 months or something, right? So, what is the average career span of a pilot?
Till the retirement is about 63 years.
Okay.
So if you're medically fit,
And at what age can one apply and become a pilot? Even
18.
until 25, 30?
18.
No, the latest.
Well, airlines stop hiring you at the age of close to 35 as a fresher.
Okay.
If you are just out of your flying school and have zero experience, they will hire you till the age of about 35.
About 35. Now, let's just say I got out of college, I flew for a year, and then I quit for some reason. And then 5-6 years later, I want to get back to flying.
So I have not seen a single case of anybody doing that in aviation, because people who come into aviation are there for the love of it. Money is definitely decent, but if you cannot love flying, you cannot be in this field. So that question is a little difficult to answer, because I've never seen anybody who's quit flying and come back after 5-6 years, but they can definitely. There are, because if you haven't flown for a certain period of time, your interaction in the aircraft goes away. So you'll have to do a few training sessions, and then you can be back into flying technically. But I've never seen anybody do that ever.
So, like you just said, you need to take care, consider basically the factor that you won't get that routine life. You might get sleep sometime in the day, sometime at night, and all of that. Apart from all of that, as an aspiring pilot or someone who wants to go to flying school, what are other factors that one has to keep in mind? Like, since you said one erratic part of the schedule is going to be your sleep cycle, apart from that, what kind of a family life can one look at?
Family life is not a problem, because you have your off days, you have gap in between your two flights.
Okay.
So there's a regulatory requirement that a person has to have such a certain amount of rest between two flights.
Okay.
So that is catered for. You'll have your plenty of family time. You'll have your time to go out with your friends and all. But yeah, life is a little difficult. So when you're considering flying as a career, another very big aspect is going to be financial.
Okay.
Flying is expensive.
Yes.
So because end of the day, you're burning fuel to learn how to fly. It's theoretical, obviously, but the practical aspect of it pays a bigger weightage than the theory aspect to a certain extent. So you end up spending a lot of money to get that pilot license. So that financial backing is also kind of important. And competition in today's world, no matter which field you go, it's pretty high. Same in aviation.
Yeah.
So scoring your first job is going to be difficult. I know almost a lot of my friends, including myself, we face that. After we get the license, there was a period of lull and there was no induction
for years
happening.
you have no job.
Yeah. So it takes a toll on your mental stability as well, to an extent, where you'll be like, all your friends who are gone into the mainstream lines like engineering or MBA or whatever, they're well settled. You, on the other hand, are nowhere. So as a pilot, technically you can become a pilot after your plus 2. If you do your pilot training after that, as a plus two candidate spending close to 1 crore rupees, you don't have any other job which can pay you. Let's say you've taken some amount of loan. There's no job which can pay off that year. What do you call your
because
loans?
at the end of the day, we look at the return on investment also.
Your rate of return on ROI is pretty good once you get the job.
Yes.
But scoring that first job is very, 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 very tricky.
Yeah. So take us through the entire process of how one can, start the process of getting into a flying school. What all happens there? What are the kind of stuff that they teach? What is the prerequisite? And also, what is the kind of expenditure one can expect?
So first, let's talk about the expenditure again. Most important thing, right? So I'll break it into two parts. So once you join a flying school, you'll get something called as a commercial pilot license. That, if you do it in India, it'll cost anywhere between 35 to 45 lakhs.
Okay.
If you do it in countries like US, it costs about $60,000. So it depends on where you are going to do it. In the US, the requirement is slightly higher, the number of flying hours which you require. India is slightly lower. And after this, the first job you get, the aircraft you're going to fly for that airline, you'll have to pay for that yourself, for the training of that.
Okay. Yeah.
So that would be another 30 lakhs approximately. So if you do it in India, 40 plus 30, 70, plus your runabout other expenditure and giving your exams, all those, whenever somebody asks me, I would say approximately on the higher side, close to 1 crore. So if you have 1 crore in your hand, you can be rest assured that by the time you start earning money as a pilot, you'll be spending all of it. So that's expensive. That's really expensive.
Yeah.
And how is the process of this? Is you have written exams to become a pilot.
No. How can one get an admission first? So you finish your intermediate plus 2?
And then you go to the flying school and then they give you.
Okay, there's no entrance exam or anything.
There are few schools which, as in the elite.
But it's not like on a national level. Nahi hai. वो उनका private exam.
It's a private exam. And if otherwise, there are many schools which don't conduct any exam and you just go walk in and then you have money, they take you pretty much.
Okay.
And there are many schools which do that as well. In India, outside India as well. So the prerequisite for that is very simple. Plus 2, more than 50%, you can get into a flying school.
Okay.
And then there are exams which you have to give in order to get your pilot license. The passing mark in that is 70%.
Okay.
So in aviation, the minimum passing is 70, no matter what exam you give. So you have to write those exams along with your flying. Once you finish that, you can become a pilot eventually by finishing the flying hours.
How many years is that course, the flying school?
It depends on the student's ability. You can finish it in as less as 4 months if you're capable. And there are cases when people have taken more than 4 years.
More than 4 years. But a sweet spot average is 3 years?
Again, each individual is different, right?
Okay, how long did you take?
My training took 5.5 months, 6 months almost. US is faster.
Yeah.
Because again, the ratio of number of aircraft to the number of students in the school, that also depends.
Yeah.
So because you need to fly a certain number of hours to get the license. So in US, there are less students, more aircraft. So you can fly a lot more. In India, it's the other way around.
So when you the basic minimum, how many hours does one need to fly over
if
here
you
to
fly
get the
in
license?
India, it is 200 hours of flying experience.
And then when you get the license, what are you called? You're just a pilot.
You're commercial pilot.
Okay, that's it. Yeah. And then from there, you build up hours and then you keep getting...
So basically, commercial pilot. And then once you join an airline, you're called a junior first officer.
Okay.
Then you get trained on that particular aircraft. Let's say aircraft A. You get trained on that aircraft A. And then you start flying that aircraft as a first officer in that airline until you gain a certain experience. And then you'll have to give exams again.
Okay.
And once you clear those exams, you'll be upgraded to a captain.
Okay.
That phase would take about 4 years, 5 years. And after that, you become a captain on that particular aircraft. And then you can grow up to another level of instructing students who join the airline and stuff like that.
So, and there are a particular number of hours that one needs to fly every year minimum to maintain his license?
You don't have minimum, you have a maximum.
Okay.
So 1,000 hours per year is the maximum as per regulation.
Okay.
So if you fly 1,000 hours, physically it's very daunting. It might just sound, 1,000 hours hi hai na, but on the physical human body, 1,000 hours in the air is very taxing.
Yes. So, like for example, I run a business, I hire an employee, there are some deliverables that are required from that employee. So from a pilot, what are those deliverables in terms of hours or takeoffs or landings, or how does it work?
Safety.
It's
Safety.
safety, yeah.
So we transport people.
Yeah.
End of the day, it's a transportation system. So how safe you are.
That's it.
Determines everything. Because whatever we do in flying is all about safety.
Yeah.
Let it be medicals, what we were just talking about. Let it be the aircraft flying, teaching skills or anything. It's all surrounded by safety,
Yes.
maintenance. The bubble of safety is very important.
Yeah.
That is not to be burst at any time. So as long as you're safe, you're good.
Ideally, till what age would you want to fly, and when would you ask someone to maybe cut off flying? Because I have read few articles where they're telling the more time you spend in that pressurized cabin, it's having mental effects and stuff like that. Or
I haven't read anything about mental effects. If you ask me personally, till the end of my life.
okay.
I don't consider myself doing anything else except flying. It's a place where I find my zen. I find peace. I am in a complete different mood when I'm flying. It is everything else is out of my head. All I'm concentrating is that machine and myself and enjoying. Again, I would relate in a way which even you will understand is when you're on that ride, when you're on the motorcycle ride, the way you feel,
Yeah.
I get the same feeling when I fly. So I don't want that to end ever.
Okay. No, so one more thing is there's good days and there's bad days no matter what field you are in, right? So what is a good day for a pilot and what is like the worst day or like a nightmare for a pilot? I'm not talking nightmare in terms of, something bad happening with the flight, but in that whole day of flying, something that can put someone off.
Considering a bad day, again, there are definitely days when when you're just lazy, you don't want to work, and there might be an option where you can't say no to the company also for whatever reason. Let there be a shortage of pilots on that day, or you're not well and still slightly unwell, and then you're still being asked to fly. Consider that. As a fresher, also you might have that bad experience when, again, you're in the cockpit sharing your cockpit with one more person. That's it for whatever 8, 10, 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
If your rapport with the other guy is not good, it's going to be a boring time or a horrible time. If you're the junior, it's even more difficult. If you're the senior and it doesn't happen, it's basically like a quiet cockpit.
Yeah.
You don't interact except whatever is required. If you, again, so CRM, what we talk in all the companies and all the industries, it plays a very important role in flying as well, similarly. So if you don't have a good relation, it is going to be bad. So being outspoken, being, with an open arm, if you invite anybody into your life happily, it is going to be a fun place. If you are very caduce, it's going to be a horrible time.
Okay. Now, a lot of people think when it comes to aeronautics, the first thing that comes to your mind is pilot. That's it. But there is so much more that happens even in that one flight, be it from the person who's loading luggage or someone who's printing a boarding pass to you and all of that, right? So let us say someone, for some reason, let's just say 1 crore is a way big amount for them, or let's just say physically they are not that capable to fly, be it whatever. What other options one can look at that can get as close to flying?
I would put this in two aspects. First part, I'll directly answer what your question is. The other aspect, again, it depends on someone's interest. As a, ways of earning money, if you see it that way, aircraft maintenance engineering is a very bright future in our country, because as Indian aviation, we are growing. We are growing at a pace which was unheard of in the past, and it is going to grow for some time. With the growth, we are going to have a lot of maintenance requirements as well, with the number of aircraft which are being coming in. So with that, for earning money well and staying in a very comfortable lifestyle, aircraft maintenance engineering is a very good option. Another option which people don't really know of is air traffic controllers.
The one that sit in the tower.
Yeah, the people who sit in the tower. Not only the tower, there are people who sit in the back end also, who control aircraft which are far off in the regions. So that's a complete different study, and that has again a lot of potential. And there is always a shortage of pilots. I mean, so shortage of air traffic controllers in the country as we speak right now. And that is also a very, very, very fruitful thing which will happen in the near future for sure, and which is happening right now. So these are the two major things. People, again, if you're looking at a more glamorous kind of a thing from the outside, not from the industry, cabin crew are for safety.
Yes.
So if you like that, that is definitely there. But that is, again, I wouldn't consider that a full-time, long-term career, because the life of a cabin crew is kind of restricted to maybe your late 30s or early 40s, depending on which airline you work for. But the other two, for sure, a long-term prospect. But again, all this involves a lot of study as well.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the industry, it works like clockwork. You know, if one piece of the puzzle just falls off, the entire thing falls apart. Like me as a pilot, I don't know how the luggage comes to my aircraft correctly.
Okay.
I don't know how it functions. But my aircraft is parked there. 5 minutes later, the luggage comes there to my aircraft. All that, there is a team which takes care of it. Fueling, my work is to give the amount of fuel. It goes to the company which refuels the aircraft. All that is taken care of by somebody else. So if one aspect of this falls off, the entire schedule of the aircraft goes for a toss. So it's a very, very, very tricky industry. So basically, as a passenger, they don't understand the integrities and the smaller things which are involved. So I'll give you an example of another very small thing here. So weather, not in control of any human. There are airfields where you require a certain amount of visibility to land. So as a passenger, you'll say, "यार, मेरे को दिख रहा है." But technically, you can't go there legally because the requirement says that you need certain things. As a passenger, you'll be like, "यार, ये लोग तो जाते नहीं है." It's a bigger loss for the airline than the passengers if they don't take you.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's a very, very cute industry. It's got a lot of problems, and it takes a lot of patience as well.
So another thing, since you mentioned fuel, there are certain occasions where aircraft, they dump fuel, right, in order to get to that destination. So tell us about that. What exactly is it, and why do they do that?
So dumping fuel, not all aircrafts have it. Okay. My aircraft doesn't have it. Most of the narrow body, like the aircraft which you fly, all of Indigo's aircraft, let's say, or all of SpiceJet's aircraft, they don't do it. They don't have that function. So it is done only in case of an emergency.
Okay.
Not on a normal day.
Okay.
And this is also done in a safe place. It is not done over cities and all.
Okay.
So maximum takeoff weight of an aircraft is much higher than the maximum landing weight.
Okay.
So let's say you take off from Hyderabad, you have maximum, let's say, assuming it to be 100 kgs, maximum takeoff weight. And the maximum landing weight is close to 85 kilos.
Okay. There's a 15% difference. Roughly.
I'm just giving you a rough.
Okay.
So what will you do? Let's say you have an emergency immediately after takeoff. Either you hold and burn that fuel and come back, or option is to dump fuel. So in that case, few aircrafts have this option of dumping fuel. That is the only function of it. Otherwise, nobody dumps fuel because fuel is very expensive in today's world.
So another thing is, one airline that we all know that has shut down, and everyone knows it by the name Kingfisher, various other airlines that have had a downfall, right? So as per you, being a pilot and flying for so long, what does it take to successfully run an airline? And also, what exactly goes wrong that the airline has to shut?
To successfully run an airline, I would give you the best example is Indigo, currently in the Indian market scenario. Okay. They do things, the planning aspect of it has to be very meticulous, very to the last little minute thing. If that is not done, as I said, it's a small part of the puzzle. If that breaks out, everything starts breaking up or breaking apart. So in case of Kingfisher, there was a lot of things. It was not a matter of a day or two. It was multiple factors which accumulated. I think the length of this podcast won't be enough to discuss that story. But there are many things which went wrong, not just one. Again, there's something called as a Swiss cheese model. So everything looks fine until
it actually starts rotting on the outside.
So as soon as all the holes align, that's when you see the problem. Till that happens, you'll be fine. So it was over time accumulated, बढ़ गया, problems accumulated again, and then they've done few other mistakes which were very grave, and then eventually it basically fell off. It couldn't manage itself.
Yeah, but for example, if you're running like a smaller scale business, let's just say I'm running a kirana store or a supermarket, I can kind of foresee that something is happening and I have this much time to fix things. Otherwise, everything is going to fall apart. But when you're doing something so large scale, how long do you think as the airline owner will you be able to foresee, the crumbling of their empire?
You can, to an extent,
can?
yes. But the problem in this industry is it runs on very small margins.
Okay.
Yeah, it's surprising for the market, but as you see, most of the airlines are actually not only in India, anywhere in the world, they're mostly in red. They're never in green.
Yeah.
They run in red because of the margins. Margins are very small. So let's say you do a flight from Delhi, Bombay, which is the biggest trunk route in India. It costs 100 rupees to run that flight. Okay, if the aircraft is full, they earn 100 rupees. Out of that 100 rupees, they spend close to 65, 70 rupees for fuel. And then comes to the maintenance, the pilots, the ground staff, all the other handling charges. So the end of the day, the money which is left with the airline is very small. So for whatever reason, if that flight is cancelled, they'll have to give all the money back to the passengers. Because the aircraft is grounded, they'll have to repair it. Parking charges. Additionally, all the other overheads are remaining constant.
So not flying is way more expensive.
Way more expensive. So again, for an airline, if you see, again, the model Indigo, which employs, the amount of time which an aircraft sits on the ground is very small.
Yeah.
So in a 24-hour day, their aircrafts are at least being worked for over 13, 14 hours. So their aircrafts are never parked on the ground, as in only except for transit.
Yeah.
There's no night halt. They have late night departures, early morning departures. So that way, the more an aircraft runs, the better it is for the airline. More it runs, obviously maintenance will be more, but that is offset with the earnings.
Makes sense. Yeah. So while being a pilot, can someone also expect to have any other source of income on the side apart from flying?
Other source of income, as in you can do your mutual funds and...
No, not that. Something else that requires slightly more active participation.
A little difficult because when you're flying a lot for an airline, because an airline will try to squeeze every rupee, and a pilot is paid well in India. For the average Indian, you're paid well. So the airline will try to squeeze as much juice out of you as possible. Physically, it's very daunting to do anything else. Legally also, as per the Indian regulations, as per your contract with the company, you cannot be employed by anybody else, right?
Okay. So if you're flying for the airline, you cannot fly private jets for someone else or for another airline.
That's impossible.
Nothing.
That's impossible.
Okay. So the
reason for that, again, I'm sorry to cut you out, but the reason for that is, let's say I fly an aircraft A, or I'll give you an example we have two aircrafts, let's say an Airbus and ATR. An ATR pilot cannot fly the Airbus.
Yeah.
Similarly, an Airbus pilot cannot. So you'll have to be trained on that particular type of an aircraft.
But an ATR pilot can fly a private jet, right? Which is also an ATR? No?
Which is an ATR, which is the same type of an aircraft, yes. If it is, ATRs are not used for private.
Legally, he's not allowed to under the contract. No. Okay. Now, like you said, in India, pilots are pretty well paid. And as a spectator, it looks like a glamorous job, but at the end of the day, there's no glamour in it. So what kind of a starting pay scale can a kid look at once he gets his license?
Okay. So once you are employed by an airline, you'll get a stipend.
Okay.
Stipend varies from airline to airline between 20,000 to 45,000.
Okay.
And once you finish your training on that aircraft, you'll be called a junior first officer. Pay scale is between 1 lakh and 1 lakh and 2 lakh 10 between airlines.
Okay.
And after you gain a certain experience, it is between 2 lakhs 10 to about 3.5 lakhs.
So for
as a first officer itself.
As a first officer, so how many years after getting your license can one expect to reach there?
After getting a job, I would say.
Yeah.
After getting a job to 3.5 lakhs, it would take about 2-3 years.
Okay.
And once you write exams after that, once you clear those exams, your pay is between 4.5 to 5.5. And then once you become a captain, your pay is between 6.5 to 8. And then it goes up.
And what are the factors that decide this? Because 6 से 7 तक बोल सकते हैं, but 8 तक जा रहा है तो उतना बड़ा bandwidth?
Each airline is different, right?
Okay.
So every airline has their own
so based
pay
on
structure.
it's basically on the airline's budgeting.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, that's it. So let's say you're a pilot with Alliance Air along with me, our pay scale would be the same.
Okay.
If it is same post.
If post is same, so pay is going to be same. There's nothing
You
extra.
can't. There's no negotiation like in other IT companies where, okay,
No, I fly better than him. You can't say that.
ऐसा कुछ नहीं. It's a fixed contract.
Okay.
So everybody on the same level, we get paid the same.
Okay. So that way, a harmony is kind of maintained. So now, let's just say I've been flying in alliance with you, and I'm at a decent pay scale, 3 years in, 4 years in. Now, the contract duration is for how many years on an average? 2 year, 3 year contracts? So let's just say I'm nearing the end of my contract and someone has approached me to fly private jets. I want to make that switch. Do I need to go through a different kind of training if it's the same aircraft?
If it is the same aircraft, you'll have a company specific. It's a very short procedure.
Okay.
Within a week, you'll be up and flying on the other end.
Do they get paid more, or
They
what's
can
their
get.
work schedule like?
They can get.
And how does it work? So like I just work for an individual, or I go under a company and that company is
No,
hired?
you work for that individual. Let's say if it's let's say I am a pilot,
Okay.
you own an aircraft, you hire me, I'll fly for you.
But my flying frequency will be very less. You'll still get paid the same or more?
In fact, private people get paid more than commercial pilots. But more because, like, let's say you're my boss. You would say, I want to go now to that place.
Khatam. You have to
I
be
should
ready.
be ready.
Okay.
So,
Basically, you're on call all the time.
on call.
Okay. But then now when you work for your airlines, you have these frequent medical checks and all that, right? When you work for a private
Still do.
person, you still
Because
have
you
to.
need to keep your license current. If you don't have your medicals, your license is not valid.
Makes sense. Now, so the pilot thing is done. Let's get to the bikes. Now, what was it initially that drew you to biking?
I always wanted to have motorcycles.
Why not cars? Why motorcycles?
No, maybe at that stage, I was not financially good enough to have supercars.
Okay.
And then bikes I could afford got me to bikes, and then it became a kick.
Which out of the 4 that you have, which one do you enjoy riding the most?
I enjoy all of them for different reasons. There is
Which one has the most sentimental value to you?
sentimental, I would say the Thruxton. It's got a different vibe to it. It's it touches your soul. Like no other vehicle could ever do in my life.
I had a taste of that.
So like even if there's a scratch on that bike,
Uh,
it hurts my heart. Like
should I attach the video to the podcast of it from
Please.
last week?
please. So like that was not the first time it happened, but it had falls before also.
Okay.
But there's some special value for that bike in my heart. Maybe because of the way it looks, maybe because of the way it sounds or how it feels when you ride it. It's different. It's different to any other bike I've ever ridden. It has a different vibe to it.
It's like hamari khujli humko hi malum, that bike has that feeling.
It's not good at anything. It's
I won't say that. It makes you feel so much
it makes
more
you feel
manly.
special. It makes you feel special. It is not the best bike in anything, but it's got some class to it, which I don't think anything else can match.
So, you want to unveil the 5th bike in this, or you want to do it in the vlog?
In speak, I don't know. We might get the new bike by then, right?
By the time this video is out, the bike
I think
will
so.
be
I think
home.
it'll be here.
So I would want you to tell the 5th bike and why that. the big reveal.
Okay, so this new one is again going to be a twin cylinder motorcycle.
Yeah.
It is from a brand called BMW.
Yes. Welcome to the family.
Thank you so much. And it's a bike I've been itching for quite some time. Like the first time I sat on that bike, I was like very intimidated. Like I was with any of these adventure tourer bikes. I'm not a very big. I'm my height is about 5'9". Not a big built personality. ADVs are huge.
Yes.
I was intimidated. Similarly, this bike, when I first sat on it, I was very intimidated. And that got me the itch to ride it. And I have ridden it once. And then I fell in love with the way it not handles, but the way I felt on it and the way the bike felt. And I wanted to buy this bike for about 2.5 years. Finally, I could find one for myself. And it's called the BMW R18.
And
And I don't know why, but my choice of bikes are very different. I don't know why, but not many people vibe towards my type of bikes because all the bikes we own are kind of less in the market. And I feel like all
Not
of them
just
want
that,
to
everyone
own them,
wants more
but never
cylinders.
buy them for some reason. Let it be the Thruxton, Panigale also the same thing, Multistrada also the same thing. They go wow, but they would never want to own them. Similarly, the R18.
Which is why I understand that, because even I am a twin cylinder guy. I people like the nature. I don't know why they want to hear that big number 4 ho या inline 4 ho. वो एक खुजली है. I'm like, what you want in a city is torque, not BHP. वो torque low end मिल जाए, you are more than happy. You'll still not be able to use the full potential of the bike.
I think even that's a very small wrong saying where twins don't have power. Let's say my Multistrada, it has 160 horsepower. That's way beyond any normal person's capabilities.
You are a way more experienced rider than me. You've toured extensively on that bike. You've put that bike through a lot of challenges. And I still feel you've not unleashed the full potential of the bike.
I would
And you
say
probably
not
never will.
I don't think. Especially in a country like ours with roads like what we have, it's impossible. We're nowhere tapping anywhere close to the potential of that bike. It just amazes you how much more power. Again, I think regarding this bike philosophy, what we have in our country is big capacity motorcycles are those sounding machines for us, right? Since our childhood, when these kind of machines were only a dream away, and we could never even think of owning any of them. So all of us, even me, we used to think of superbikes as like you have a certain sound to it which rings in your head.
Yeah.
Twins don't do that. Twins have a very, very mechanical thrashing. It's like generator. Very, very raw way of putting
you call
it.
my bike tractor sound.
A very raw way, but yeah, that's how they sound. So since your childhood, do you have a thinking that, okay, superbike? Okay, it sounds like
loud.
that. Yeah, it has that growl and howl or whatever you want to call it. These don't. So people tend to stay away from them, at least in our country.
Not just that, if you put an ADV or even a sports tourer beside a super sport, people will still look at the super sport and not the ADV. They don't understand the design of it. They don't understand the purpose of it in the first place. Now, speaking of bikes, I forgot to touch upon this topic even with Srujan. Since you are the elder one, I want you to do the honors. A lot of kids will be watching this, and a lot of them would probably be wanting a bike for themselves, but they do not know how to talk to the parents about allowing them to get the bike, which I know people even in their late 30s and 40s struggle. This one conversation is that awkward conversation with the parents. Now, I want you to say something that will make sense to the kid as well as the parents.
Again, one very, very big factor when it comes to two wheels, it's not safe. So, end of the day, two wheels are not stable.
Yeah.
You have a chance of falling. The biggest concern for, let's say, any parent would be, what if my son falls, so my daughter falls? Kya hoga unka? How can you convince them? Is by being safe. There's nothing more like being the simple things. Even if you're riding a scooter or anything, even like 100cc motorcycle, wear your helmet, wear your gloves, even in city. Prove a point that safety is very important to you. That way you can instill that confidence in your family members that, okay, my son is safe.
Yeah.
You never know. Something bad can happen. Somebody might come and ram into you. That's a different ballgame. That can happen even when you're walking, when you're in a car or anything else. But you have to instill that confidence in your family members. Yeah, mera beta safe hai. And let's say you have a fall. First, call your parents and say, okay, I fell down. I am safe. Tell them the whole story. That way they will know, okay, that this fellow is not going to hide anything from me, ever.
So what you're trying to say is safety and then communication.
Absolutely. I think beyond this, anything else can happen over time. The trust factor takes time to build. But to break trust, it's just a snap away. It genuinely is just a snap away.
Which cannot be built back again.
It cannot be built back once it's broken. So build that trust and keep that trust.
Yeah. Now, before we close this, basically wrap the whole podcast, want you to shed some light on the crazy incident that happened on your trip recently.
Well, dinner
with the multi.
Oh, multi.
Dinner ka to
multi again. See, those things. Spiti is a place where unexpected
you go on
things
two
happen.
wheels, you come back on it or without it.
Absolutely. So you go, you enjoy. I had one fall on the multi in that trip, In fact, I even read a comment where somebody's written that me and Srujan threw our bikes on purpose
For views.
for views.
Scripted.
Which, okay, as absurd as it may sound, but it was very funny to read that. No sane person would do that, yeah. And again, the tire, that particular tire was only about 6,000 kilometers old before that trip. I thought it'll go for that trip and come back. And
The tire gave out.
I don't know whether the roads were such or what, but literally the mountains chewed on the tire, like to an extent where, you know, like I think this pillow must be harder than the tire eventually when it ended. And I'm genuine on that. And I don't know if you have photos or I'll send you, you can put it in this podcast.
Pictures,
But it was biblical. It was another the worldly thing, you know.
But it's again an experience. You are in the
definitely.
middle of nowhere
Definitely.
and you had to ship your bike back.
More than that, you know, what was very heart touching is the hospitality which we received. I don't think any of us in any big cities or anything, anywhere.
I remember you saying the same thing in the vlog.
It was very touching. You know, it was very touching.
But I know who enjoyed that the most. Shubho. Dal chawal roti usko jo
You
mila.
won't, this all I don't think came on the videos.
Yeah.
But the next day, I wanted to buy a bike there. If I would have found a bike in Spiti, I would have bought it, purchased it to continue the ride.
Okay.
Because I wanted to ride the entire
That
thing.
would have made for a nice experience.
But I couldn't find a bike.
Yeah.
Eventually, I found a bike on rental, which was not started in over 2.5 years. I'd taken that on rent, serviced it, and then we were like, we're heading back because we couldn't go further because of lack of roads, because of the landslides and all. So I was like, although buying a bike in that state is expensive, but I was like mentally, I was like, kuch bhi ho jaye, I need to finish my ride and I want to ride it.
Yeah.
So, but whatever, it was a very fun experience.
It's a story to tell. I mean,
Absolutely.
not everyone will come back with the same story, no?
Absolutely. Oh, beautiful place. It was beyond what
The pictures and videos do justice.
it is a place to experience. It's the people, it's your friends, it's the whole experience in a total.
Yeah. So one last question before we wrap this up. With you, it's been different because we've gotten to know each other quite a bit. Many of the people who come here are like first time meeting me types. So, but this is the first time you're doing a podcast.
Yeah.
So what do you have to, take away from this whole experience of doing the podcast? Apart from the lunch that we
think
had.
I should ask you that because I am new to podcasts.
Yeah.
I don't know how much is it visible for them on the cameras, but the setup is mind blowing what they have here. Like first time Srujan spoke to me and I went there and I was frozen. I'm like, Srujan is very camera shy.
Yeah.
I am not. But he was like, the setup dekhe, he was like, what the hell types. It's a good initiative by you, like so that people can get awareness about
Basically a
different fields.
platform, yeah.
And get some knowledge. That's very important. What you're doing is amazing. I had a great time actually.
Same here. So guys, if you like today's podcast and you feel it will help you or any of your friends or relatives, then please do
Like, share and subscribe, guys.
comment and subscribe to our channel. That's Project You.
He's done some amazing videos. Watch all his content.